Welcome to the Marketing Leadership Podcast, brought to you by Dots Loves Marketing. Join your host, Dots Oyobulu, as he learns from CMOs, agency leaders, and business leaders about the state of performance marketing, plus insights on strategies, campaigns, and intelligence for commercial impact. Connect the dots and enjoy the latest episode.
Hi, marketers. This is Dots, and welcome to the Marketing Leadership, not podcast, live stream. With me here is Chris Walker, CEO Passetto, and Sangram Vajre, co-founder and CEO at GTM Partners. Just in case you don't know, these are the greatest B2B marketers of our time. So you want to invite your friends, you want to invite your enemies to this live stream. You don't want to miss it. Well, what I'm going to be talking about today, it's going to be the ultimate go-to-market playbook for B2B brands. It's January, so you have something for the rest of the year and even the rest of the decade. Get ready to blow your mind. Get ready to also get your mind blown. Sangram and Chris, welcome. How are you doing, guys?
Yeah,
doing awesome.
Super excited
to be here.
Yeah, I want to know what hair gel Chris is using, but that besides the point. We'll get into that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I want to know it as well, even though my hairs are thicker and they break easily, but we'll just have to see. But, it's an awesome privilege to have you both on this. It all started from a casual comment, and now we're here, so it's really surreal. But without any further ado, because I've got a lot in store for those joining there. Let's start with you, Chris. Tell us about your journey. We do a bit of homework here, so I know you had a bit of an engineering background, and sometimes when you say revenue engineering, I'm like, is that where you got that from? Oh, okay, maybe. So you want to clarify, what your journey has been up until this point and how you've risen to the top, basically.
Yeah, first off, I see the title here, Sangram versus Chris, the ultimate showdown. I think Sangram and I are going to be pretty much on the same page. I think this is a little bit of clickbait. Like, we're just having an intellectual conversation. I'm sure we share a lot of the same views. So
yeah, it's Fugazi
attendees, but I don't expect this to be much of like a debate overall. And then you mentioned, earlier on, Sangram and I known as some of the best B2B marketers. And I think the reason being for that is that for 5, 7 or more years, both of us have thought about it like go to market and just had entered it through the marketing angle, but thinking more about, how that impacts sales productivity and how that impacts SDRs being able to book meetings and how that impacts CAC and ROI and things like that. And just marketing seems to be the place where there's the least visibility in the data and the least financial acumen and a lot of silos. And so I think that marketing is where the factory starts in a lot of cases. And then everything downstream from that, SDR, sales, customer success, and retention, gets positively or negatively impacted by the performance of the beginning of the factory. Just to back up a little bit, I studied electrical computer engineering in college. I wrote code for 6 months and realized that I didn't like it and wasn't very good at it. But what I did like was understanding the market and going out and talking to people. And I kind of just found my way in there about a year into my career and being at trade shows and surveying people in 2013 about what features they liked, how they responded to our messaging, how we fell in the competitive set. And I spent a lot of time thinking about that. I'd had a little bit of a weird turn and spent 3 years doing lean manufacturing optimization inside of factories that would make millions of parts. And if we can optimize our supply chain and lower our cost of goods by $1.50, we can improve the company's profitability by 14%. If we are able to improve or change this one process, we can be able to create hundreds of thousands more of these pieces in our manufacturing facility in the same amount of time. And spending a lot of time trying to figure out what are the biggest problems in this factory, what is the upside, what is the ROI, where should we focus to get the biggest output. I think a lot of times in go-to-market, people are just doing stuff and not thinking about there's a million things that we could do. What is the most important thing that we should all be focused on? And I think that my brain has been able to work like that through some of my previous experience. And then lately, I'll just cut to the chase. I've for the past 3 or 4 years been obsessed with the problem related to go-to-market metrics and marketing metrics. I believe that the CFO wants to be able to help the company become more profitable, lower CAC, grow faster, but doesn't have the go-to-market expertise or visibility or to be able to really weigh in at that level. The revenue leaders haven't been challenged to think about unit economics and CAC during the growth at all costs era. So for many C-level executives, this is entirely new for them beginning in 2023, and they don't have previous past experiences to draw on. And the whole landscape of SaaS and tech has been changing quite dramatically. And I think that the timing has been perfect to think about it as a holistic revenue factory to try to break out of the siloed department nature. And I think that requires new metrics, new mindset, new ways of approaching things.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will be going, very, very detailed into that. But thanks for sharing, how your thought process or how your experience has been built. And I personally would say, and for those listening, I'm sure they share as well, the fact that you share knowledge for knowledge's sake to a lot of people out there it's great. I don't know if you invented demand gen, but you probably popularized it. So that's really great and huge respect for that. So Sangram, I am so much of a fan that I had to stalk you at Inbound. That's how much of a fan.
I remember you gave me the T-shirt. I still have it.
Yeah, exactly. I huge respect for what you have done, for the industry, what you have done for go-to-market, product marketing, sales. Maybe, a lot of what you might be sharing today might be more of the ops side of things, but you could correct me if I'm wrong. But before we get into the details, you are kind of that person who has gone into the world preaching GTM to all nations, baptizing them, in the name of GTM OS, and so on and so forth. If you guys are familiar with Matthew chapter 28, how did you rise to become go-to-market pastor?
Well, it's so interesting that when Chris is talking about his journey of being an engineer, I did not know that. So Chris, that was great. We have known each other for so long, but I didn't know that about you. I had pretty much the same exact background. I'm a bachelor's, master's in computer science. And when my group, I think in the master's program, you could take electives. And one of the elective was just write a code and present. I would, all my team members would say, "Oh, no, don't code. You can just present. You're such a great presenter." And that made me think like, oh man, I'm really good presenters. The whole master's, I didn't write a code, and I got graduated with master's in that. And then a few years later, they all met me, and we were just talking about it, and they said, "Sangram, have you ever wondered why we didn't let you write the code?" And had you, yeah, man, because of you, I have so much confidence. I get on stages, I speak. They're like, no, you're a horrible coder. We never wanted you to be anywhere close to coding anything. So we just pushed you in that. So in life, I feel like sometimes you get pushed into these areas of that you don't really know, but you just go with some naivety around it, and you end up doing it. And that's really been my story as well. Is I've done marketing. Somehow I got into marketing, and Pardot, where I ran marketing, got acquired by ExactTarget and Salesforce. So I learned a lot at Salesforce. I really got my chops here, really at Salesforce, and then started a company called Terminus, which got to now over 100 million. So having that experience of starting from 0 to grow all the way to 100, like Chris, I think you just recognize you fail 100 times in that journey. Every few million, you felt like you have it, and then it all falls apart. You feel like you got marketing and it falls apart. You think you got sales, you got fall apart. And I used to always think, man, I got like bad marketers, or salespeople don't know how to close deals, or the CS people, man, they all need to let go because we need to get experienced people in. And all along, I was so wrong. It was the process of go-to-market that was wrong. The mindset, to Chris, what Chris said, was wrong. And I have been very responsible for a lot of the mindsets and popularizing it. And I'm trying to carve out of my own thing. Like, no, like, let's go back to this, and maybe there's a better way. So I think both Chris and I are on that journey to just learn and share, because you're growing every single day.
Yeah, you're right about, popularizing some of the standards through which we define that these days, the GTM OS. And I know I'm going to ask you about that, but nice preface for you both. Guys, like I said, if you're still on the pod, you need to invite anyone that you think should be here, because we ask uncommon questions to common topics. Now you know that our guests are both from engineering backgrounds, and I had studied computer science myself and just got by.
Clearly, the best marketers have computer science background. Let this be the case. If you go to a marketing school, you really are not a good marketer because you're learning the 4 Ps and really not know the psychology of it. And I think what makes us all really into it is because I think in at the bare minimum, I wonder, Chris, if you think the same as well. I feel it's really psychology that we're really talking about, of how people buy, how people engage. That's really what it is. It's not the rest of the mumbo jumbo.
Psychology, statistics, science, experimentation, qualitative, like intuition. Sometimes I think there's a lot of things that you can put together to be really good at. And when I think marketing at this point, I kind of split it off. You have business strategy, which some things happen through marketing, and then you have pipeline creation, which is an entirely different part of it. And so when you separate those two things out, you see one is like a lot of art, and the other one is a lot more science and data.
Yeah, absolutely. And I what I see common in what you just said, both of you, is really in the technicalities of it. Marketing has gone from, I mean, there's still a lot of the fluff out there. There's a bit of a movement on
More than ever.
B2B brand awareness, but it's balancing that, and getting to the crux of what the business needs, to succeed, which is really great. So, Chris, I'll stick to you here for my next question. Again, you've prefaced this a little bit, but I'd like you to really dive deep into how you've reinforced the need for or any kind of marketing, in my opinion, whether it's B2B, B2C, whatever it is. But we are in B2B here, so just to stick to the context. But every marketing should be tied to economics. Every marketing should be tied to unit economics. Knowing that fact, and I know a lot of people on this live stream know that, what would you think are your favorite GTM motions that you support? I should have asked Sangram this question, but I thought since we are in the ring, let's swap it a little bit.
Do it.
Yeah, so let's talk background a little bit. So from 2012 to 2018, I started 2 bootstrapped e-commerce companies. I would sell things on Amazon. I would run Amazon search ads. I got really good at Amazon SEO and Google SEO, and then eventually Instagram organic and Instagram and Facebook ads. And when it's your own company, you're bootstrapped, you don't have any money, you're spending your own money on advertising in your own time, and you have $30 in margin to get a customer, or you're going to lose money if you spend more than that. You get a lot more clear on, are these things that I'm doing in marketing working or not? And most B2B marketers have never been through that experience, right? If it at one point it cost me $60 to get a customer, and every time I got a customer, I lost $30.
Ooh.
And then that was my own money. And if you do that 1,000 times over, now you've lost $3,000, right? And all the time that you spent there. And so that background, I then moved into running demand gen at a $35 million medical device company, and started to see what people were doing, and was just blown away by this. Like, it feels very basic. Like, we have this much money, we need to acquire this many customers, and we need to think about the economics around it in order for our marketing to be considered working. So when I talk through the unit economics around like marketing, I have a lot of empathy and understanding, because most marketing teams actually don't understand the full P&L and expenses. It's not due to lack of capacity, it's due to lack of visibility. Most marketers don't know how much is being spent on sales. They don't know how much is being spent on headcount outside of their own department or sub-department budget. So all they can do is say, we spent X on Google ads and we influenced this much amount of money. And I think a lot of the issues the difference between B2B and B2C is really, and often it's a generalization, but oftentimes that there's no sales team in B2B or in B2C. And so you don't have that additional layer. So marketers actually have to sell shit. And in B2B, it's a little bit different, where you can say, oh, we got our leads, or we got our website traffic, or we got, 500 people to this webinar. Marketing did our job. And I think that we need a lot more sales revenue oriented mindset within the marketing department, specifically the people that are responsible for creating pipe and closing pipe. Is there any particular like metrics people should track? We at my company, Passetto, have developed several proprietary compound metrics that will track the effectiveness within marketing that I'm keeping close to the chest. So I won't be sharing those today, but if you want to become a customer, I'll tell you about them. But generally there's nothing that a mid-level marketer or even a CMO can do to really measure this without understanding and getting a full export of all the expenses that hit CAC. And most marketing leaders don't have the authorization to get that. So any advice that I give you is not going to be helpful because you don't have the data to make the calculations anyway. And so it's tough. Like, I think that marketers should be accountable to it, but even if they wanted to right now, it would be difficult for them to be. And so, yeah, when I think about what the core problem is in marketing, the three questions that a marketing leader and a finance leader want to answer are: where should I spend my next dollar to get the highest return? Where are the places that I'm spending money that I'm getting the highest performance and should try to figure out how I can squeeze more juice from them? And what are the things that I'm getting the lowest performance that I should cut or stop? And all three of those questions are not rooted in efficacy. It's rooted in return on investment. They're all finance problems that show up in marketing and then downstream impact sales. And so I'm trying to shift the conversation here about what the actual problem is. Multi-touch attribution has nothing to do with finance data. It has nothing to do with ROI. And most companies, you view that as the industry standard, or any model that you use for attribution. If it doesn't include fully functional, complete finance data, you're not going to be able to solve this problem.
Yeah, and guys, when Chris means multi-touch, there is, oh, here's my share of conversions, or here's what I did. That's kind of what he's talking about there. But you're right, and I would like to just add a little bit before I get to Sangram here. In thinking business-minded, revenue-minded when it comes to your marketing, what do you see 5 years from now like? And I'll give you some context. Personally, pipeline has been the go-to accreditation for marketers these days. I drove 100 million in pipeline, and that's kind of in your credentials. But I say that we need to start saying I drove so amount in revenue, not in pipeline. Pipeline, and I dare say this, again, this is a boxing ring, so let's go. It almost feels like the next new fluffy metric, if you like. I'm not saying it's not valuable, but it almost feels like the next new fluffy metric. So where do you see 5 years from now in marketers, and then these two, Chris, getting closer to revenue and getting maybe deeper, more difficult KPIs?
But even so, if you say I drove $100 million in pipeline that won at 20% and led to 20 million in revenue, but it costed our company 120 million to get it, and we have a 6-year CAC payback, that also doesn't work, right? It's not just about how much pipeline or revenue we drove. The cost of it also matters a ton, and actually is the root of the problem in B2B companies today. I used to be the person, and I love this because Sangram will be in the same way. There are many things that I talked about 5 years ago that now I challenge myself on and are reinventing myself with new knowledge and new experience and a landscape change. And one of them is marketers should be focused on revenue. And that's what I used to say. And yeah, when we do marketing, we definitely should be focused on how does this drive revenue for the company at an appropriate ROI. But if you have a 6-month sales cycle, it's very difficult to be focused today and then trying to figure out and wait 6 months to see whether or not your thing worked. And that's why we use leading indicators and leading metrics that are controlled, what we call closed feedback loop, a concept by Winning by Design that I love, where you create pipeline and you monitor it against trailing 12-month win rate. And you're able to create a feed forward calculation around the quality of the pipeline and the potential or the estimated gain of it. And then you can pull your leading metric into 30 days from now instead of waiting 6 months to know whether or not it's working. That's one of the things that we have been working on tightly with Paceto, because we need to be focused on metrics, and we need to have a feedback loop much faster than waiting to revenue as a person responsible for pipeline creation and pipeline generation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So Sangram, I'm going to post that, your favorite GTM motion question to you, and just add a little bit of an extra to that. So in addition to what Chris has said, how, in terms of marketing approaches in general, and just, marketing titles, unit economics, what do you think are your favorite GTM motions? And it doesn't have to be, this is not a silver bullet live stream, guys. So
there is none, right? Like there is what drives revenue in the right way. I hope people picked up on a few things that Chris was talking about. I think they need to go listen to some of the stuff that he just said, and some of the videos that he goes deeper in a lot of the stuff he's talking about. And I believe another way to frame those things is, I think we've been asking the wrong questions for long periods of time. I'll give you a very classic example of this. We've been asking questions like, where can we grow? And at the surface level, that sounds like a great question. Of course, where can we grow? Let's just start working on it. But we don't finish that question. And the way you finish that question is, where can we grow the most profitably? That part just never got in our minds because of this growth at all cost and all the different models that we all have been part of. Same thing when you have more than one product. So if anybody listening, and if they have more than one product, the question really shouldn't be that, hey, which product creates value? Well, hopefully all products create value, but you need to figure out which product creates the highest gross margin and profit and value for a customer so they can be sticky. And I can go through those 8 questions that our research has come up with in the last 3 years. I think that's what has been the greatest learning for me. I thought I knew the question. I thought I was sounding smart. Where can we grow? Where can this go? Which motion to? And these are all wrong questions. They're false positives at best. Because it will make you feel good about it. The whole team will rally behind it. And then, like, to your earlier point, Dots, like you mentioned about the fact that, well, pipeline. Yeah. People say I generated 100 million pipeline and still got laid off the very next week. Like, how is that
oh my God. Yeah.
Because the reason is, and they put it on LinkedIn, which is the hard part, because I'm like, oh my God, I had to shut up because I don't want to make anybody feel bad.
Yeah.
But if you generated 100 million pipeline and you still got laid off, I think it is something demonstrably wrong with the way you understand the business. And therefore, this has been happening again and again and again to marketers who should have the most input and insights into customer journey, like Chris was talking about. So I think if I have to pull it back, I said, man, can we start asking more deeper question about the business that we're in? And if we do that, I think we'll start finding better answers. And that's the beginning of it.
Yeah, I would like you to get into those questions as well. We do our homework well, so I've learned a little bit, and I'm hoping to learn more as well. If you're on this stream, Dots as the host always learns from all his guests. So I digress here. But one question or one statement that you are very, very famous for worldwide is, and same for Chris in some ways as well, is CEOs owning, or being the sponsor of the, old GTM operating system, if you like. Well, think about it. I'm the CEO of Salesforce. I have to be on Mad Money once a week. I have to be on CNBC, another once a week. I need to be on CNN once a week. Now, I don't want to say the rest of it. I have to be on Fox once a week. How do I have the time to oversee a GTM operations? I get it for small businesses, medium-sized businesses. There's a lot of that roll your sleeves involvement. But at the enterprise level, how have you managed to engage leadership at the very summit to be part of GTM success?
Yeah, and Sangram, I'd like you to talk about SMBs too, because I feel like even in the mid-size, it's not getting ownership the way it should.
No, not at all.
Yeah, so go ahead, Sangram.
Yeah, so 2 things. One, when Brian and I wrote the book Move, this is 2021. When go-to-market wasn't cool, by the way, right? We felt like we were like a couple of kids trying to write something, trying to see around the corner to see if he can cross the street.
Many people call Chris a crazy man too. So
yeah. And it's like 4-question, framework and stuff. And it did really, really well. And that's when I became the student of go-to-market. And when I was writing the book, I felt I knew it. Like, we built Pardot, we got acquired, Terminus, 100 million. Like, we had a couple of good runs. So we thought we knew go-to-market, and we're going to tell the world what go-to-market is. And then I walk into a conversation with Brian Halligan, the CEO of HubSpot. That's the story I talk about in the book. And I asked him, who owns go-to-market? And it's a publicly traded company CEO. And he was the CEO since it was 0. And he's like, yeah, I own it. He didn't blink. So did when I went and talked to Nick Mehta, CEO of a 100 million plus company at Gainsight. Didn't blink. Henry Schucks, CEO of Zoom Info, to a small advisory or agency company. Like almost every CEO apparently knew that they own go-to-market. But then I'm not going to tell the name of the companies. When I ask their CMOs or CROs, they have this weird understanding of like, well, I kind of own go-to-market, or we both own, or all five of us own. No, that's not. So we had to really understand what is go-to-market. And that's really goes back to going deeper with any and everything. Maybe that's the theme, what we may come out of this thing. And a question like, well, what is go-to-market? It's a transformational process. You actually made hundreds of go-to-market decisions every week. That blew my mind, talking about that. For example, Brian was like, well, if you give more budget to marketing or sales, that's a go-to-market decision. Should you buy a company or stay within your own lane? That's a go-to-market decision. If you want to open an office in EMEA or stay in North America, that's the go-to-market. So when you start thinking about like, oh my gosh, there are lots of go-to-market decisions, and who is the best person to make those decisions? That's sure not marketer saying I need more money than the sale. Like it's sure not like a salesperson. He or she is going to hire SDR. So that really made me a student of go-to-market, which is why I think Chris and I, we are as rapidly as we can learning and sharing so we can learn more and know that whatever we know is probably not enough in the way that things are moving with the AI and everything. So that's like, to me, it's just going deeper on these things. And it's no different for an early stage company or SMB company. And it's definitely not different for publicly traded company. It's just a massive, we feel the scale will reduce it will make you not focus on go-to-market. Actually, you have to focus way more on go-to-market as a result of it. And we can get into in a minute with examples. But Chris, I'm interested what you are seeing.
Yeah. What do you see, Chris?
I spend a lot of my time recently. I've spent sub 100 millions type of companies. And I see a lot of those companies with unclear ownership over go-to-market, many times saying, hey, our CRO, now the marketing leader reports into our CRO, so the CRO owns go-to-market. The problem is that finance is a massive critical part of the go-to-market, and so is product. And so when you break it down at that level, it ultimately has to come from the CEO. When you think about a lot of these types of decisions, the chief revenue officer role, I've been challenging since 2019, 2020, because it feels easy and nice to say, oh, we'll just put someone in charge and all the things will roll up to it so it'll work better. The problem is that these people have certain experiences and tendencies, and the people that own the CRO role typically are people that have experience in sales. Generally, I'm generalizing here. More marketers are doing that, but even on the other side, like someone that was a CMO for 20 years and now has to go run a 100-person sales team probably isn't going to be the best at doing that. And so when you look at mostly what I'm obsessed with is the investments and the strategic decisions and the prioritization around those things. And I feel like in companies at all levels, there's a tendency to continue to delegate down in the in the name of autonomy, in the name of empowerment and things like that. But there are many decisions that should be made at the CEO level only, and there are many decisions that should be made in the C-suite only. And I feel like I often see, like our director of RevOps could fix that problem. And they're just not equipped, don't have the experience, don't have the visibility, don't have the financial acumen to solve those problems or make those decisions. And so I feel like as C-level executives, we need to start owning the most important critical business problems in our business and the most important priorities, and stop delegating down and start owning. I think for a while in go-to-market, teams started getting bloated. There was a lot of different people. The market was really hot. It was easy to just say, okay, VP, go and figure out how to spend this $10 million on advertising. Today, the CMO's got looking over all those pennies a lot closer than they were 3 or 4 years ago. And so I think just a lot has changed. We're seeing management layers compress, teams get smaller, get rid of that whatever 1 or 2 levels of middle management that frankly just created a lot of politics and a lot of like separation between the people that supposed to make the decisions, the people that do the actual work and work with customers. So we're seeing those decline, and we're going to see C-level executives get back into the work, get closer to customers, and owning a lot of these problems is how I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me add one more thing
Please.
to, and maybe even have both of you react to it. This has been my experience for the whole last year. One, we would never take an advisory client unless the CEO is in the room when we are actually doing the work. Like that is by default. We did the other way. And then you'd use a simple example like ICP, and we're like, oh, that's a marketer's job. And that became a whole nightmare because the marketer, the CMO, again, a good sized company couldn't make decisions around it, or the sales team didn't feel like they were part of the decision making, so they didn't have the back. So we see this all the time. And gosh, this company probably wasted 10-20 million dollars without even knowing, on literally just trying to make sure that if they could be in the same room, make that decision together on it, and the marketing feels like, all right, I can go and go to bats for this now. The sales team is saying, yeah, if you give me that particular type of ICP, I will make sure they close. The CS feels like, all right, if you both are going to do that, and these are the best customers we're going to have, I'll do whatever it will take to retain. That's what every CEO should want, and actually wants, but they are not in the room. So they keep saying, marketing, go give me leads, sales, close deals, CS, fix this leaky bucket. And that has been, honestly, most CEOs are not doing their job. That's what it comes down to. And it's a hard thing to hear, hard thing to say, hard thing to experience, but we see that. So whenever a CEO is in the room, you can do this in like 4 meetings. You don't need 1,000 meetings. It doesn't mean you're going to bog down. You're bogged down by the pennies and losing dollars here all day long. And people just are not thinking through those equations the right way. So I love what, Chris, you just mentioned about where the arbitrage is between the two. I don't think people understand how big of a problem this is when the CEO doesn't own, and what does it mean when we say he or she needs to own. It's a gigantic problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I would like to stick with you, Sangram, on the next question, because there are a few more questions. But just to add to what you said, I would respond from the marketing side. And again, if you're watching this stream, it's an honor to respond to a comment by the greats. And I think one of the biggest issues is transparency, especially from the marketing side. I think it's convenient for marketers, and this is the truth here, it's convenient for marketers to act in silos, because when they make mistake, it's easy to be buried. And you don't want, the CEO to know about that so that you don't get fired. Fortunately for me, I've had 3 scars in my career, so I can make these statements to say you have to get them, you have to get them involved. There's not really much to add to, all have been shared. Transparency is very, very key. Whether you're in the mid-level or director level, transparency is very, very key, in how you, drive the go-to-market, depending on where you are within that commercial space. Because there are, again, some questions, other questions that I still need to ask Sangram, but I want you to give us a bit of an overview of that GTM operating system that you mentioned. Is this a Windows Vista thing or a Windows 11? We need to know the quality.
Well, I know it's an Apple. You need to go beyond that element of it. The 2 parts to it, and let me just maybe you can come back to this one point before we jump into the operating system.
Sure.
We believe, and I'm Chris, I want you to be straight if you don't think because we got to give something to Dots that shows that we are against each other. So maybe this is it. I don't know. We believe business transformation happens in teams. It does not happen in individuals. It does not happen in siloed departments. It actually happens in teams. And that's like the underlying message for why the CEO needs to be involved in it. If you want to transform truly your business, don't make marketing better and think that's going to fix your business. It actually is not. You actually may be really good at marketing, and that's when companies have great brand and sales sucks, because you haven't really transformed the teams to actually transform your business. So whenever there is no team level focus on the most important questions from a go-to-market perspective, the business loses, the team fails, individuals fail, all of that. So we believe business transformation happens in teams. Chris, what's your take on that?
I totally agree. I think that, a CMO or whoever, and it doesn't matter what title, will join a community or do continuing education and learning, and they'll get, 1% smarter at their particular thing, and it actually just helps their career. It doesn't help the business very much. The problems that exist today are systemic and across the company, and all of the cracks between the functions and departments are where all the problems are.
Yeah. And nobody wants to jump into those
It's
corridors.
nobody's responsibility, right? The
Exactly.
CMO is going to deploy their 20 million against the marketing objectives and KPIs that are set there. We can debate whether they're the right KPIs later. Same with the sales leader, same with the RevOps person. Despite that RevOps should be doing this, I don't see it happening. The only person that's going to stick their neck out and say, we have a huge problem between the marketing and the sales handoff process, or we have a big problem with from sales to customer success, or we have a big problem with our data across our whole company, is the CEO, and that's the only person that can authorize those types of visionary cross-functional investments.
Yeah, and people will listen to it. So the whole operating system is really designed around this. We like my whole experience having built marketing automation and then ABM. Like I was trying to fix marketing problem, quite frankly, with ABM. I'm like, well, marketing can do better. So that's where the whole account-based marketing and the books I've written were about. And then recognizing that no matter how much I fix marketing, it's not fixing the business. And that's led to the ABM is B2B part of it. And it's really my own evolution, I think, in the last 10 years. And then I wrote that to say, well, marketing and sales work together. Now, if I go to another meeting where somebody says marketing and sales work together, I'm going to lose it. Because the problem with that whole narrative that I have been the advocate for many, many years has been, who is going to make them work together, like marketer? Or no, it's the CEO. So going back to that, and that's where the whole go-to-market came about, is that no, it's really a transformational process that you have to bring. So the whole 8-question go-to-market operating system is designed for companies to bring their teams together at the executive level, because that's another big thing. This change cannot happen at an SDR level. As much as we want to say, well, like to Chris's point, empower people to do it, it's not gonna happen. SDR cannot.
I mean, even in the age of AI, but I'll let you go on.
Yeah, it can't. It's not gonna happen if you're your marketing manager. Sorry, it's not gonna happen at your level. It has to. You have to rise. You can probably promote it, advocate it, but nobody. The change management around go-to-market is so big and so important that those decisions has to be made at that level. So that is a big part of what operating system is supposed to do.
Yeah, I invited, or we invited a lot of business transformation folks to this pod, and so that if you're here and you manage to join, then you'll be able to appreciate some of the things that have been shared here. Not to get dragged into the CMO ownership conversation, but just a quick second thought myself. I know that both of you, even from the advisory side, most of the closes that you've made are from CEOs. I have a fairly good photographic memory, and I know that Chris made a post that broke down deals won and CEOs won more deals, CMOs lost some of the other deals. And now you mentioned Sangram yourself, speaking to the CEO of HubSpot and so forth, and it's basically it's almost the case in that regard. So that makes it a lot of sense. Now let's get into another topic. Chris, here to you. And there might be a ring moment here, but we might be making B2B history. You've got a lot of more marketing acumen, I would assume. What are the more core marketing approaches? Dots believes there is brand or brand awareness, there is demand gen, and there is performance or direct marketing. Some people think it's two.
I can't wait for Chris.
Some people don't think that one. So please, let's clarify this once and for all. I have thrown the first punch, Chris.
What's the difference between demand gen and performance marketing?
Okay, explain that.
No, you explain it to me.
I explain it. Yeah, so demand gen, I believe, drives customer consideration. Any tactic that drives customer consideration, podcast, some will call it gated content, and so on and so forth. Just you sharing your knowledge online, which helps a brand portrays.
You're walking into it, you're walking right into it.
How's that different than brand awareness?
Brand awareness is, we're here, you're telling a story. It's not necessarily sticking to the job to be done, of, the future customer. Performance marketing is sticking to just the conversion itself. So yeah, I've walked into it. Give me the punch now.
Cool. So first off, I think that marketing is a terrible category for all the things that this function and department does. So let's just sort of set that apart. I think that you have business strategy, which includes product marketing, positioning, competitive intelligence,
Pricing.
Influencing the product roadmap, analyst relations, public relations, some forms of thought leadership, and some form of events based on the objectives of the events. So it's less about what we're doing and more about what is the goal of what we're doing. But you have this whole category called strategy. That thing influences across the whole go-to-market. It's not just about pipeline creation. Analyst relations impact retention and expansion just as much as it does getting a new customer, right? So you have strategy, business strategy. Next, you have demand creation, which is taking, I want to target this account or this set of accounts and getting those accounts engaged with your business. And you can decide how you want to define engage. We have a standardized definition for it. Going out and getting people that are not caring about you, don't know about you. Maybe they do know about your brand, but they're not interested in buying, engage with your company, coming to your events, things like that. We need to go out, get them, pull them into this next level. The next part is supply chain, which involves taking the first party marketing signals and the third party outbound signals and combining them into one standardized process. Just because it comes from your website versus it comes from ZoomInfo, the goal is the same. We need a signal, a high quality signal with a qualified person and or a qualified account that our sales team can prospect against. Okay, so then you have the supply chain, all of it together, fuck inbound and outbound. I don't know if we're supposed to swear on here, but I don't care.
Please, go ahead.
And then lastly, you have prospecting, which is the objective of prospecting is to get the qualified account, qualified person from a signal into a qualified meeting and becoming a qualified opportunity that sat on a meeting with your sales team. And that's when the pipeline creation process ends. And you can do prospecting through AI. You can do prospecting with BDRs, SDRs, XDRs, whatever you want to call them. You can do prospecting with your sales team for deals that justify having your sales team do prospecting against high quality signals if the deal size is large enough or for other strategic reasons. And all of a sudden, now you've taken marketing and broken it up into 4 distinctly different independent processes that can all be measured differently and all have different skill sets, talents, experiences, and probably leaders.
I see.
I'm gonna jump in
okay.
here.
Yeah, jumping out. I just see that it's Chris is reshaping the go-to-market from a business transformation. And I think I see that. I think it's important to see that. Some people might be afraid to say, now, am I going to take on a sales job? Or now, am I going to take up some customer success job? Now, am I doing retention? I guess if you want to grow as a commercial leader, and we've seen some CMOs transform into chief customer officers, you might have to lean into some of the things that Chris is saying. But I responded from a marketer's perspective and experience, and we know a lot of thought leaders out there that some of them are still, pushing the narrative of B2B brand awareness and saying, why should we be changing what is not broken? But Sangram, I'll let you get into that.
But this is why a lot of marketers actually don't like Chris and I. Like a lot, it's a reality.
Tough,
I mean,
I get the screenshots from Slack community, some of the cool kids clubs talking shit about what I'm saying from a bunch of CMOs. Yep. So I know it happens.
Especially if you're a CMO, you probably hate us. You probably won't want to say it publicly because we're likable people. But the reality is that whatever we are saying, we are completely saying, well, forget this siloed approach. This has what's killed your career. And unfortunately, businesses that you have been part of, this glorified CRO title, the glorified CMO title, who just do events and all, you are sabotaging yourself. And there needs to be a lot of self-reflection, which is why I think Chris and I have risen from our CMO roles to the CEO roles, because we kind of are recognizing that, Mark, every single person, and I want everybody to take a moment here to recognize this, that you are a business leader. You happen to be good at marketing. You happen to have experience in sales. You happen to have a good customer relational ability to do certain things. You may be great at operations. Those are areas that you have specialty in. But you're ultimately, if you really want to take the mantle of go-to-market, you better recognize yourself as a business leaders.
Mm.
Everything changes once you take that suit off of a marketer or the lab coat, whatever you got. You take that off and say, I'm going to put a business suit on. I'm going to figure out, because if your business does well, guess what? You make more money, you make more equity, you make all of those things. People are just not ready to move across that chasm yet for some reason.
Yeah.
And it may be fear, it may be 100 different reasons why, but the more you lean into this idea that you're a business leader, like, gosh, if you are a B2B company, CMO, or trying to become a CMO, you're really saying you're championing the cause that I want to be a business leader. You want to know all the metrics that Chris is talking about. Like, you should demand that if you are not going to join the role, if you don't get those things, because that's what happens. Going back to that $100 million pipeline LinkedIn person, they get fired, and then they curse the CEO, then they curse the market. But the CEO probably has been trying to tell that person, dude, you're going in the wrong direction, or trying to get them to own certain things, and they're like, no, I'm killing it over here, and they're in their own little bubble, and there are like fancy awards for it, and then we find out that, oh, you just lost your job, screw that company, right? All those things. It's not that. It's a business question, what go-to-market is. And that's where I want people to take a moment and recognize that.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you, Chris, just to share some thoughts and some specific ways on sharing that thought. Obviously, I've been knocked out here, so I I see what you're saying. I haven't been involved in nowadays more of business, marketing business. I think it's important for marketers who want to grow, and based on how both of you have shared it, to start to see marketing as part of business transformation, not just like marketing as marketing or marketing as sales, and and things like that. But Sangram, one other question I wanted to ask you, and again, maybe Chris, you have to respond to two questions here, but I'm trying to manage our time, is when it comes to go to market, you are going to market. I'm going to Home Depot to buy something. So some will go up market, some will go downstream. We're not discussing that here. What I'm looking at, and you've mentioned that partly during this live stream, is looking at other markets, geographical markets. Is that something you've done before in your career? Like, how do you approach that, even if it's just a very loose experience on how you think GTM can work when people are going from one market to the other, going from, I don't know, North America to, if you get what I mean. And if there are other types of markets that I might be missing here.
All of that are go-to-market decisions, right? And just to finish the last point, maybe just to get everybody really honing on this, we really understand, and most of the people who are listening to this, they probably are really good marketers of their own little sliver of whatever. Maybe it's a design, maybe it is SEO, maybe it is paper, whatever. You understand how do you market the business, like the marketing of the business. You're probably very good at it. And what we are encouraging everybody to think about is to understand the business of marketing. It's not just a play on word, it's a complete mindset shift. If you understand the business of marketing, you would not have and say, well, I do pay-per-click. You will say you got a menu of options, and one of the options could be SEO pay-per-click. Maybe another option is community, and therefore the go-to-market motions we talked about. Maybe it is that you need to open a new office in another location, goes back to geography. It is understanding the business of marketing. If you understand that, or at least have a pursuit of understanding that, you'll start asking questions like, is the market open in EMEA? Should we be actually opening up there? Because I can run this play over there. And because they're a little bit maybe at a different stage of their business, this actually will work faster over there, and we'll get more gross margins and revenue. You're going to ask these questions. You're going to start thinking like that, as opposed to, let me get more budget for my pay-per-click. Like that is what's killing the marketers. So the business of marketing is what's missing when it comes to go-to-market. We trivialize it. The idea of just going is very trivialized. And that's why Christopher Lockhead would say that, like, he would give, actually on my book, if anybody would read it, I have a quote from him, and it says, I have it here. He says, love the guys, but hate the book. Like, he literally said, and it's in the front cover of my book. The reason is because his point is, you got to think categories and where you want to go. We can go deep on those, but the big issue is, do you understand the business of marketing? And Chris, I'm sure you have a ton of thoughts on this.
Yeah, Chris, sorry, before you jump in, I just want to ask something. Does product to market fit play a role in determining that market? Because you're right, most of all these tactics, maybe in 5 years, will be automated by AI. So if you want to share a paid media strategy, for example, 70% of that will be business strategy before you start getting to the crux of PPC. So does product to market fit play a role in that? Just in 30 seconds.
For me?
No, for Sangram.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, product marketing is a huge piece of it.
Product market fit.
Product market fit. I mean, you got to have a great product. That's where, if the product sucks, you would see that in the numbers, left, right, in every way. No matter how great of a marketer you are, you're going to die by the wine. There are lots of lookalike companies. They're all getting folded because there is not enough market. They're not in it. You got to figure out a product market fit. I think that's a given.
Yeah. Now, Chris, you can, respond to that, approaching the market and what it takes.
I think that for a majority of companies investing in advertising less than 5, 7, 10 million ARR is a complete waste of money, and they should be spending their time figuring out, how do I engage with my customers in a more one-to-one intimate setting, community, live events, podcasts, things like that. Advertising is when you have a fucking machine of, I can sell this to this exact person and I'm going to try and pour gasoline on it, and nobody has the machine and the fire brewing enough at 5 million ARR to do that. And so you just waste a bunch of time and money and meetings and opportunity cost of other things that you could be doing. You set a precedent around your customer acquisition costs and how the team you build around your advertising strategy and everything. I just think it's a huge mistake caused by the egregious amount of funding that happens at those companies at ridiculous valuations.
Yeah. So, Chris, I'll stay on you here. Can you please go over those, approaches you mentioned again, the pipeline creation and stuff like that? Just go over it because of our audiences.
So yeah, let's talk through it again. Okay.
Yeah,
Everybody looks at this category of marketing. And what I'm doing here is re-segmenting how marketing operates based on the objectives of the things that we're doing. Okay. So number one, you have strategy, product marketing, competitive intelligence, positioning, messaging, sales enablement, probably analyst relations, public relations, and you put this all in that one bucket. If you're going to put brand awareness somewhere, it would go there, but you get brand awareness through those activities. And brand awareness, while nice, is not enough to drive revenue, despite what anybody says. There's I'm very aware of all the ABM vendors' names. I'm not interested in buying an ABM tool. I don't care how much I understand their brand. I talk about them almost every day on my podcast. There's a lot of people that are like that. There's a lot of companies that you know about that you just don't want to. It's not like I don't like them. I just don't need their stuff. I figured out other ways to do it. So brand awareness isn't enough. But you have this one section. If you look at that one section and think about how much money is spent in each of the sections, right? So that section's actually not that much of an investment. Then you have demand creation, which is take a target account. We have these 1,000 or these 100 or these 100,000 accounts that we've decided these are our best fit accounts, and every company should have that. We're going to go after them intentionally, and we're going to try to get them engaged with our business, coming to our live events, on our website, talking about our business, asking questions in a community, through distributing content that gets them aware of our business, our category, our problems. This is not a brand awareness thing. This is the problem that we solve. This is the category of the thing. You're going to want to buy this category, and we're the best at it because we taught you it.
Yeah.
Third, you have supply chain. Supply chain is taking the MQLs that you get from all your first-party data that you confuse with marketing sourced, and all the third-party stuff that you confuse with outbound that comes from ZoomInfo, user gems, of the other trillion types of data sources, third-party, put them all together, stack them top to bottom, and look at them as one holistic set of, these are all the things that we can spend money on to get signals that our sales team can prospect against. That is where 90% of the money gets spent in marketing. Right there, that one sliver. And because we try to measure it with all these other fucking things, we confuse the fact that this is what the objective and this is how we know whether or not it's performing, in addition to the fact that it's split between two departments. So you lose all the synergies between the two.
Yeah.
Supply chain. And then lastly, prospecting. Marketing, if you want your marketing team to own pipeline creation, they must own the prospecting engine. Pipeline ends when we have a SAP meeting with our sales team. Therefore, we need the prospecting engine there too. SDRs, BDRs, sales source, however you want to do the prospecting that gets the qualified meeting sat on with our sales team as a qualified opportunity. That's where pipeline creation ends and closing new logos starts.
Yeah.
So
Devil's advocate.
There's just a lot more definition around the purpose of why we're doing things, what type of investments fall into those categories, and the most important part is what is the balance of our investments across those four things, and where is the place, and then how do we measure specifically against those four things instead of just measuring all of marketing with one multi-touch attribution model, which clearly isn't working for anybody, and then lastly, where are the imbalances between our investments and performance? If people looked at that, they would say, wow, we spend 90% of our budget on the supply chain between all our data sources, all the performance marketing and lead generation that we do, all the events that we do to get leads, 90% of the investment. And look, like we're way underperforming and we're actually not funding any of these other categories properly.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm sorry to cut you short there. I was going to ask, do you think this model also worked for the product-led growth, or product-led growth is just somewhere in this process?
Same exact thing. It doesn't matter what your go-to-market motion is. If you sell a $50 a month subscription or $1 million you're still going to have a set of target accounts. They should be well-defined. You're going to have allowable CAC targets. You're going to need all those steps in the process. Your target customer needs to be aware of you and engage with your business. Then they have to be engaged in the supply chain. The supply chain is no longer prospecting. It's going to go right into your PLG motion or whatever, however you choose. And then secondarily, most PLG companies, when they grow up, realize they need to sell to bigger companies and sell bigger deals and build a sales team. So it's a foregone conclusion that you're not going to be PLG forever, most likely.
Yeah. And thanks for adding that point as well. Okay, guys, it's been very, very intense so far. And so we are going to have a lot of fun. This has been awesome. So it's the Dots Rapid Fire. We are already in the boxing ring. Now, think of a boxing ring that now has a furnace inside, where we are going to throw both guests into it. It's rapid fire, so as fast as you can, 3 questions each. You say the truth and nothing but the truth. So are you ready, guys?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So first question, I'll just focus on you, Sangram, for the first 3 questions, and then we'll do same for Chris. So the first question is, in terms of talking to recruiters in B2B marketing these days, what do you think should be the best role definition for a marketing-oriented, or I guess a business-minded go-to-market person? What would be that job role? Is it Chief Growth Officer? Is it Chief GTM Officer? Is it Chief PMM Officer? I've heard PMM before. Which one? What?
Well, it's a shiny new toy. So yeah, the Chief Go-to-Market Officer sounds super shiny, and it actually might work in companies that are bigger, where there are multiple business units. But in reality, the best thing you should ask is like, show me the numbers. Show me how do you make money? Show me where it is. Those are the questions that most marketers don't ask. They keep asking very lower level questions, which forces the executive team to put them on a lower level jobs. They just don't understand that.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so Chris, now to you, throwing you into the furnace here. This is very casual question because it's rapid fire. When are you going to write your own book?
Yeah, the question is, when am I going to write a book about go-to-market or demand gen? And the answer is no to both of those, honestly, just because I don't feel that passionate about them, and my thoughts are well documented across the internet. I could probably have AI write the book for me in like 15 minutes right now. But anyway, what I'm interested in writing a book on, I want to write the book once I'm done with the journey, not in the middle of the journey. And the book is going to be the new way for entrepreneurs to build tech companies. And that involves bootstrapping a services business to be able to collect the insights and solve customer problems manually and guarantee that your customer is successful, understand the problems deeper than anybody else, use the cash flow then to fund the development of a product inside of a new entity. And then when you build that product, you fucking already know it works because you've proven it out with hundreds of companies already. And then you're off to the races, need no VC funding. You don't need to build a unicorn to become incredibly wealthy and be very fulfilled in your work and job. And so that's the book I'll be writing once I'm done with this journey.
If you've seen the movie 2012, you heard it from Charlie. You heard it from John Dots. So thanks for sharing that. Now, the last rapid fire question for both of you. And I'll go back to you here, Sangram. What is your favorite business quote? I was going to say marketing, but now we're in business transformation territory.
Yeah. I don't know who said it. I'm sure one of you would remember this, but somebody said, you can have everything in life you want, but not all at the same time. That has been so true for me. every single day. It's like, I wish I had all of these things, but I recognize the sequencing of it, and I need to appreciate that and live that out and recognize that eventually you'll have it, but you can't have everything all at the same time, but you can have everything you want. It's just a matter of sequencing.
Yeah. So help you God, Sangram. So help you God. So
Can I
again,
do one?
yeah, yours as well. Your
The-
favorite business quote.
It's just the motto that I've been living by starting in 2020, mid 24, and really embracing it right now, which is slow is fast. And you see the company that's paying all the influencers to promote how they raised $40 million at a $1.2 billion valuation, and I don't think that's fast. I think that, and when I've tried to go fast, it feels like you're going fast in the short term, and then you pay the price later, and you end up it takes you longer to get to where you're actually trying to go.
So true.
I did a talk for a great company there at 2.6 million in ARR and have 50 employees. I'm like, you could literally get to 2.6 million ARR with 5 employees these days. Why do you need 10 times more? I was going through a debate because we'd had a team meeting yesterday and saying, we need to hire 2 more people. And the old me would have been like, yeah, if we hire 2 more people, we'll be able to go faster. More people makes it feel like you're going faster, but it actually oftentimes slows you down. The 100-person marketing team moves slower than the 5-person marketing team.
Every day.
The 5-person company moves faster than the 100-person company. And so I'm taking an entirely different approach to how I build and scale my new company. I'm seeing other people that are smart and innovative looking in the same directions. It's hard for me sometimes. It feels slower. It feels wrong. But I have learned the lessons before, and methodically moving, making the right decisions, having the small team, not looking for the quick fix or the quick hack or the big amount of money so you can dump it into something. All of those things make it feel like you're going fast and you're really going slower.
Interesting. Efficiency and effectiveness. So that makes a lot of sense there. Okay, cool. So now we are slowly rounding this up, and I want to get into the next question here. I'll go back to you, Sangram, on this just to get your thoughts. I have heard someone say, and I thought it's an interesting thought, that you should spend most of your energy and effort. The guy was bold enough to say 80% on lifetime value, and the rest on customer acquisition or customer acquisition reduction. What do you think about that for B2B? Is that true? What is your context about that, if it's true or not true?
Man, the businesses that I've been part of, what killed or hurt the most was retention. If you cannot retain your business, like, it doesn't matter. Like, what Chris just said is so deep. Like, I wrote it down. Like, you go slow to go fast, and it's so counterintuitive. If you would have gone slower, we could have grown in terms of revenue a little slower, but we would have grown much bigger and much more profitable, and we wouldn't have to do all the right sizing and all the stuff that you have to do as you grow. You're just a wrong thing all along. So I don't think any of those numbers make a lot of sense unless you can figure out a proper retention or even better expansion play that will keep people in it. And so you don't have to go and create a massive machine unless that thing is fixed.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, Chris, same to you. Do you think LTV should deserve more attention than CAC reduction or even CAC generation? CAC, guys, I mean customer acquisition or customer acquisition cost.
I think generally customer lifetime value is a made up projected number for most companies, especially the ones I interact with, because they're projecting, our GRR is 90%. That means our customers are going to stay for 10 years. And they say, okay, it's 10 years. And then we'll pretend that they're going to expand 15% every year. And they put all these assumptions in there and they say, oh, our LTV is going to be $900,000. I guess we can spend this much to get a customer. And then none of the equations play out in real life and the whole model falls apart. I think that we should be focusing a lot more direct. I think CAC payback period against first year ARR is a much better metric against that instead of CAC to LTV. And then I think GRR and NRR become the North Star metrics for a business. Once you're above 50 million in revenue, you're going to get more revenue from your existing customer base than new logos, almost mostly. And the split is, I don't know what the exact split is, but between the companies that I work with, you basically, you have companies that have figured both sides out. But then most of the time, you either have 120% NRR and your CAC payback is 5 years, or you have a 1.5-year CAC payback and your NRR is 85% or 90%.
Sorry, what's NRR? What's NRR? Just for
net revenue retention. So GRR plus expansion revenue, more or less. And 100% of the time, I'm always like, I would much rather be the company with 122% NRR that has a 5-year CAC payback, because figuring out acquisition is way fucking easier than figuring out how to get GRR from 85 to over 100%. That takes years, potentially a half a decade, maybe more, to fix your product, recycle out your whole customer base, bring on the right new customers. There's just so many variables to it that are fixing acquisition is a lot easier than fixing GRR and NRR.
Yeah. And if people are listening to, when they go back and re-listen like 10 times at like 10 times slower speed, if they can, what Chris just said, because most marketers have no idea what just Chris said. And it's just sad. It's really sad. What is it? How do you calculate GRR? How do you calculate NRR? That's when you lose jobs. That's when businesses don't do well, because you're not focusing on the business at all. Everything Chris just mentioned is a business conversation that as a marketer, you owe it to yourself, to your business, to learn about these things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And guys, if you're listening, I have a bit of a small amateur free, GTM product unit economics templates that you can download for free at dotlovesmarketing.com. But if you want to go step ahead, you can really patronize Sangram and Chris, and we'll really get to that. But before I get to my last question here,
I got to jump. Sorry to interrupt you. I'm 8 minutes late for my next event, so I was trying to go over as much as I could, but I got like 100 people waiting on my next event, and I'm late.
Oh, okay. So we'll wrap.
I'll take it. Chris, go for it. I'll be right here.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
Okay.
Sangram, I know you're going to close it out great. It was awesome to spend some time with you, man. We should do another podcast or chat one-on-one. Dots, thanks for arranging this out of like a little LinkedIn comment. I had a great time.
I know. And thank you so much.
Sorry, I have to run. Catch y'all soon.
Yeah. All right, guys. You want to stay on the episode? Yeah. So Sangram, again, before I get to the question, I just want to appreciate Rig, riggg.com. They have been a huge supporter of this podcast. They've been a huge supporter of this live stream as well, running a lot of things behind the scenes. So if you're looking for a live producer or a virtual studio, I didn't have to travel to record almost 300 episodes on my podcast. And I was able to have a very, very great experience. You're looking for a purpose content, fast turnaround, just visit rigggg.com. Now, Sangram, the question I wanted to ask, just as a follow-up to what you guys have discussed, is I want to call it maybe the obsession of the average contract value KPI or metric. I personally believe, and feel free to share your thoughts here, that striving for a too big average contract value might be a bit dangerous in the long term, because the bigger you are, the harder you fall, as the saying goes. What are your thoughts around that? Should people take it easy on average contract value or average order value, depending on what you call it, and just build over time as you do revenue expansion and so forth, as along with the pace of the business that would also be recession proof because they've grown along with their pace?
Yeah, I think the answer lies in this comparison that everybody needs to go do the math on, which is, and it's really math at the end of the day. So maybe the whole idea of all of us coming from computer science background does help us to think about it. But the math is simply this: if you can get 10 customers that are paying you, let's say $100,000, and your retention on that is 60%, or you would actually have 10 customers who are paying you $10,000 and you have 120% NRR. When you look at the same number of customers and you just switch the numbers from NRR to whatever retention was, you can just see that you'll be a much more efficient, profitable company. You don't need 100 customers with a 600 or 60% or 70% or 80% NRR. What's happening with a lot of companies today. That's what's killing the business. So All of these numbers need to be in the mind of it. So the way we are recognizing and we're asking companies to do is the model that has been broken is if you have an enterprise rep, they're going after enterprise companies and they're forced to create deal size at least 100K or more. Like that's where it breaks. If you're an SMB or you sell to smaller folks for a smaller amount, for mid-market, do this, 50K for enterprise. We created this because we were part of this equation and a spreadsheet to say what we're supposed to do. Here's what we're seeing in our research. We can still have the exact setup where you have an SMB salesperson, a mid-market, and enterprise. But instead of making the enterprise person go and sell a 100K deal, we would actually say, in order to close deal faster, go in and sell a 10K deal to your enterprise and expand much faster in it. That automatically does two things for you. Number one, you can get in faster. You can have the proof of concept faster. You will go through all the different milestones in that business much faster. And the sales process is going to be 10 times faster in an enterprise deal. So you're in the process, in the company. And if you have a product that can expand by itself through licenses or whatever it is that you have, that is much more easier, much more faster. You don't have to sell. It's usage at that time. So stay in the zone that you're in, but change the way you're thinking about it to make it easier for your customer to buy from you and expand with you. That's a better way to growing the business. It automatically takes care of the fundamentals.
Thank you so much for sharing this. I like the way you explained it from even just the pool of customers that you have and being careful of what I call the key customer risk, right? I've been part of an agency that had a lot of enterprises, and there was the 2023 tech recession, and all the enterprises churned at the same time, and not a single mid-sized or SMB churn during that period.
Wow.
Not to say that enterprises churn all the time or something like that, but when you grow too far too fast, it's almost what happens. And I can't say it any better than what Sangram has said it. So guys, this has been really, really awesome. A lot of back and forth. So that was why we went a little bit over time there. But you can tell that Chris was also very, very excited. A lot of new stuff. I got punched in the face myself in some way. And for some of you that are downloading my free resource on unit economics, I'll need to check that template because I don't think NRR is there, but everything else they've said is there. So I will update that and share that on social. But Sangram, a lot of people know you all over the world, but for some who are still living under, well, let me not put it that way because it won't be too nice. But those that don't know about you, where can they find you?
They certainly can find me on LinkedIn, and we write this research note called GTM Monday. 175,000 people read it on a weekly basis. We just drop all of our learnings, new research in it every single week. And so if people want to continue their journey on learning, they can just do it. So it's a free resource people can join.
Yeah, absolutely. Sangram has got one probably the biggest B2B newsletter in the world. So you want to join that newsletter as well. I will stand in here for Chris. Chris is the famous B2B marketer. He's got Paceto.com.
He's better than me 10 times more because he's executing on it, building companies. I will stand in for him as well. He's probably one of the best that I admire.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, this is not the typical live stream where there's Q&A, but what I promise you is that we will release a recording of this, but so that you can listen. We will turn it into an article so that you can get a lot of the transcripts on what has been shared. But I hope you really, really enjoyed this. Again, I'm dotslovesmarketing.com. You want to subscribe because I have a podcast where I interview the best, the biggest, and the everything at the top tier, when it comes to marketing and now business transformation, go to market, and stuffs like that. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, stick around for more updates. And again, I would like to thank Rig for their support on this live stream. Till next time, guys.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Marketing Leadership Podcast, brought to you by Dots Loves Marketing. There will be links to any resources mentioned in today's show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star review and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode.